we are told that in order to be strong, that means pushing yourself till there's nothing left, engaging in perfectionistic thinking, burning ourselves at both ends. That is not the definition of strength. That is a recipe for burnout. A lot of folks right now are in the process of celebrating Juneteenth. With me being from Louisiana, one of the things that we celebrate is Juan San Malo Day. And Juan San Malo, for those who are not aware of it, actually was a rebel leader of enslaved folks to be able to have a respite in a place where they could make life without being under colony rule. So, welcome back. This is Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist and was recently diagnosed with 2 autoimmune disorders. And I want to talk about today how we can celebrate Juneteenth, how we can celebrate Juan San Malo Day, and also make sure that we're not repeating the pattern by engaging as an enslaved person today. So, if you've been with me on this journey, y'all already know we talk about hard stuff here. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about the ways that we are continuously repeating this pattern of acting like enslaved folks, whether it's to our job, it's to these relationships, it's to a career, it's to anything, it's to a church, it's to a community, it is to anything that does not serve us well. It's any activity that we see is not going to be sustainable. Any activity where we're told you need to pull yourself up by the bootstraps, you need to be strong. We need to be very, very, very careful when we start hearing these things, we start feeling these things. That exhaustion that you're feeling is real. The data that your body are giving you is real. We need to pay attention to it. So how do we navigate that? Specifically, like if you're like me, you have an autoimmune disorder, how do we navigate this? Because our body is screaming at us. Sometimes it shows up with not being able to sleep very well at night. Sometimes it shows up with chronic pain, frequent headaches, frequent injuries in the body, tension, feeling irritable with folks. And, if somebody asks us, like, how are you doing? Like, we got to ask, like, why they want to know how I'm doing? What are they trying to talk? Like, any of this stuff that we're starting to notice, any sense of reactivity on our end is a sign that we are out of our window of tolerance. Something is going on. Something is affecting the body. We need to take a look at this data. Juan San Malo looked at the data that was happening for him, and he was like, you know what, this is not how I want to live my life. And he chose to go and to live in the bayous of Louisiana. And if you have never been in a bayou before, you know that they are dark places. It's a place where it's hard to know heads or tails of wherever you're going. There's water everywhere. There's snakes, there's alligators, there's all kinds of poisonous animals and things that it's not the best place in the world to be. It's mosquito ridden. It's not the best place in the world to be. But for Juan San Malo and for all of those who were following his leadership, it was a place that was a sanctuary. And so I want to talk about that. Number one, we need to do a cost benefits analysis. We need to take a look at that job. We need to take a look at that relationship. We need to take a look at that career and see, is this thing still serving me? I'm hearing more and more stories, and I'm sure you are too, about CEOs of companies leaving the company to go work in a bakery someplace decorating cupcakes for kids' birthday parties. Why are they doing stuff like this? Because they're burnt out, because they've done too much, gone way too far, and their nervous system said no more. Another place I'm hearing this in terms of burnout is I am seeing women who are in relationships. They have a partner, but their partner is not bringing in the finances that's equivalent to what they're bringing in. They're taking on more of the responsibilities of the household, whether it's the kids, the job, the maintenance of the house, whatever it is. They're taking on most of that. They're over-functioning in the relationship. And then they find themselves making snappy little short comments to their partner, like, well, it would be nice if it would be great if you would only. Like, if we're saying little stuff like this, it is a sign that we are doing too much. doing a cost benefits analysis, taking a look at what is this relationship costing me? What is the benefits of the relationship? I'm talking to so many people who are out there in the medical field, you know, whether it's the couples that I'm seeing or the people that I'm doing individual therapy with or my friends. They're in the medical field. They are burnt out. I could take a look at my medical providers, burnt out. I've gone through so many medical providers over the past 5 years, and it's not because I'm like being really picky with medical providers. No, they're retiring. They're quitting. They're going to completely different industries because the medical industry is burning folks out. Folks that are good, qualified, very wise, very intuitive. Patient care is on point, excellent clinical care, but they're burning out because the medical system is not geared towards patient care anymore. Talk to anybody who's in the medical system. It has a business model now. And so now it's about how many people you can churn out and how quickly you can do it. It is not about patient care anymore. So that sucks. That sucks for all of us, especially those of us who have chronic illnesses who really need our providers, and we need them to be healthy. We need them to be taking good care of themselves and their families. And so we need to take a look at, does this thing still serve me anymore? And I'll be real honest with you. When I'm sitting down with folks and they're saying, yep, Virginia, I am going to stay right here in this thing that is burning me out. I am burned crispy on every side. A lot of times they're staying in that place because of their own trauma. We have trauma that keeps us in some of these positions that no longer serve us, whether it's a romantic relationship, it's a career, it's a company. And guess who becomes our new slave master? That company that you won't leave. That industry that's taking advantage of you. We become enslaved. We can't leave. Don't believe there's another way of doing things. During the summer, my kids and I, one of the things I like to do is just get them involved in lots of reading. I love getting them new books, new things. We're talking about it, having conversations. One of the books that my kids recently read is Gone with the Wind, which I know a lot of people felt a lot of ways about the book, and I get it. I 100% get it. Went through the book with my kids. There was this one character in Gone with the Wind, and the character's name was Pork. I kid you not. It's a black man that worked for Scarlett O'Hara and her family. His name was Pork. Can we stop right there? This man's name was not even Pig. Because at least a pig is an animal, at least a pig is a being. His name was Pork, which means that essentially he's the byproduct of a living being. He's not even technically a living being. So, but anyways, I could stay on that for a minute. But anyways, Pork had, it was the time where the Civil War happened and all of the enslaved folks were free, and Scarlett O'Hara and all of her friends who owned plantations, like they had to let all their slaves go. And so one of the things that happened also during that time was anybody who had any sort of Confederate money, their money was worthless. It literally was worth nothing. So she went from being a very rich, privileged girl to being dirt poor and wondering how she was going to pay her taxes. So what ends up happening, you might be like, Virginia, what does this have to do with Juneteenth? What does this have to do with me burning out? Hold on just a second. I promise this will make sense. So what ended up happening was she's trying to figure out how to feed her family, how to feed the handful of slaves that are still there because everybody else left. But Pork was a house slave. And so they don't have any food. So one day she sees Pork coming in the evening and he's walking with a limp. And she's like, what's going on, Pork? What happened to you? He's like, oh, nothing. She's like, no, tell me what's going on. He has a wound because he was shot. And she doesn't go into any explanation in terms of why he was shot and how he got shot, because she sees that he has food. He brought food, okay? So she knows in her mind that he probably went to one of their neighbors. He probably stole from one of their neighbors and was shot in the process, tried to feed his family. And so why am I bringing that up? I'm bringing that up because even though Pork was free, his mind was still enslaved. He was literally putting his body on the line when he was free. Like, he could have left and kept going, but he did not leave and keep going. He left, stole for his slave master, brought the food back, and continued to be enslaved. I see people do that with their jobs all the time. I see women who are executives doing fantastic things, working really hard, making decent money, but I see them getting passed over for promotions or somebody being let go or somebody quitting, and that woman has to take on that responsibility of that job. They're not getting paid any extra, they're not getting any help, and they're just told that this is now woven into part of their job. They don't feel like they can leave. They don't feel like they can say anything because they don't have the power to do so. When we're in places like that and we don't feel like we have any options that are our birthright to have, that's a place where we're operating from an enslaved place or like an indentured servant place. We don't have to live there, y'all. That is a recipe for burnout. It just is. I see couples where one partner is overfunctioning in the relationship. The partner that is overfunctioning is doing the care, doing the errands, trying to take care of all the things. They're overfunctioning for whatever reason. Sometimes I see situations where a guy comes in and his partner's not with him, and I'm like, where's your partner? And he's like, well, my partner's sick. Or my partner is just, is having a mental crisis right now. I can't bring my partner in for couples therapy. And I'm like, okay, so how's everything else getting taken care of in the household? And that person says, I have to do it all. Because my partner's always in some sort of mental health crisis. And now we're gonna file for disability for them. That person is over functioning in their relationship. And so am I going to necessarily say, you're enslaved, you need to get out of that situation, you need to be free? I'm not necessarily going off and saying that, because I think that that's an oversimplified solution to a problem that can be more complicated, just to be completely honest with you. So sometimes it's like taking a look at and reevaluating, okay, how does that partnership serve you? Is that a partnership that you want to maintain? And so I have seen situations where I've heard people say things like, you know what, Virginia, in sickness and in health, for better, for worse, this is my partner. This is who I want to be with. They're having some sort of chronic mental health issues. I'm going to stay with this person. And so I say, okay. Sure enough, as time goes on, that person usually gets burnt out of that relationship. Usually they don't want to be burnt out of that relationship, but they get to that place of being burnt out. And so we have a conversation about like, okay, how can we resource you? What are some things that we can do to be able to help support you? So I'm not necessarily saying go around and say everybody is like trying to be your slave master, whatever. No, we don't need to oversimplify things, but we also need to take a look at some real truth. And some real truth is sometimes relationships just no longer serve us for whatever reason. And we need to take a look at the costs and the benefits of that. We need to take a look at our nervous system to see how long we can maintain to be in that relationship with the same level of energy and effort that we're putting into it, and what kind of changes we need to make. So do the cost benefits analysis first. After we do some cost benefits analysis, the other thing that I think is really important is building up your support. Build up whatever your bayou is, your sanctuary. And so maybe that person who has a partner with chronic mental health issues or chronic health issues, maybe they need some additional support and some resources to be able to offload that extra weight, because it's not sustainable to keep putting in energy out in that way. It's just not sustainable. Okay. So in addition to finding your own sanctuary, finding your own community, the other thing that I think is really important is being very energy aware. So if you look at the story of Juan San Malo, they were doing guerrilla-style warfare, which essentially means that they picked their battles. They saw when they were going to go and attack. And they also took some time to notice, like, nope, we're going to actually let this go. We're going to let that person go. We need to not deal with it. It is more wise to conserve our energy and effort here. And so what does that mean? That just means we need to be aware of how we're using our energy. Because if you're in a spot where you're in crisis mode, you cannot use your energy the same way if you were in maintenance mode. We're in maintenance. Sometimes we can kick it up another gear. Sometimes we can pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. We can do those things. But if we're in crisis mode, we just can't do that, y'all. I'm sorry, we just can't do it. And so we have to be very careful in terms of how we use our energy. I have 2 autoimmune disorders. I have to be aware of how I'm using my energy. I take a look at it in terms of a day-to-day thing, but I also take a look at it just in terms of what is my energy like? Where am I at in my treatment plan? Am I in recovery phase, or am I in more of a crisis mode, or am I in like a moderate distress where the flare is kind of like just starting to build up? How do I want to use my energy and effort? Okay. The other thing that I think is really important is, I think this is important to just do this in your life in general, but also how you celebrate Juneteenth. For me, my husband really wants to go to an Atlanta Braves game. And I'm like, sure, let's go. We're going to take that drive. Me and my daughters, we're not going to go to the Braves game. It is 7 o'clock at night, y'all. That is 7 o'clock at night Eastern time. That is right in my bedtime. I am not going to an Atlanta Braves game. Am I going to support my husband and do that? 100%. Do my daughters want to go to that game? They do not want to go to the game. So I have some things that's planned for us that's going to be a little bit lower energy in terms of going up there to Atlanta. I've got some restaurants that are planned that are going to be really nice for my nervous system, everybody's nervous system, have plenty of options in terms of food, but also just have some good memories for us as a family. The second thing that I am going to do is, on the way back, I'm going to make sure that I'm not planning that day at the max. We're going to get up, a little bit later, a little slower, and then we're going to hit the road to head back home. And I don't have anything else planned for that evening. I'm not cooking. I'm picking up food. These are things that I'm doing intentionally to make sure that I'm conserving my energy, to make sure that we're still having some time to celebrate, but also make sure that we're just taking care of ourselves. And so if you've heard something today that was helpful for you, I do ask that you consider taking that time to subscribe to my channel. I'm going to be talking about different things in terms of life, love, food, illness, kids, particularly teenagers, my neurospicy kids. But we're going to be talking about other things here. So I do ask that you subscribe to my channel so you get updated every time that I drop a new video. I'm Virginia. I'm a licensed mental health therapist. And I do ask that you would take some time to take really good care of yourself today, but also take care of some of those that are in your life. Till next time. Bye.